Hello and welcome to the end of the year lists. Now, I know that we're coming at this a little later than most. We're about 3 weeks into 2020 as I'm talking about this. So why now? Well, I usually like to take a little time at the end of a year, really get my lists in order, really think about them. Some of them, the ones I can rewatch, I do just to make sure I'm remembering right. And I'm feeling pretty confident about this year's lists. So, as always, I like to start at the bottom and work our way up with the worst films of the year. Now, before we get into any of that, I always like to do a little bit of qualifying for folks who might be joining us for the very first time. So, in order to qualify for any of my lists, number one, it has to be a movie I reviewed. I can't just sneak in something I didn't see. Secondly, I always like to stress that you got to remember all of these lists are completely subjective. These are my opinions. If you liked any of the movies on this list, then more power to you. You know, who am I to tell you what you can and cannot like? I'm giving you my opinion, and that's it. Lastly, I don't know how quite to qualify what I find the worst movie of the year or movie that I find the worst of anything else. The best way I can qualify it is by giving you this example. Yes, Cats may have been a complete disaster, but when I walked out of Cats, I wasn't mad. I didn't feel offended. In fact, I liked talking about it. So, when I look at the worst movies, I look at ones that left a bad taste in my mouth, or just didn't work for me. So I don't know if that explains anything, but that's the way it is. So enough qualifying, let's get to it. So here we go. These are the 10 worst movies of 2019. Here we go. Number 10, Godzilla King of the Monsters. This one I almost gave a pass to. This one almost ended up on the meh list because it was an improvement on the original. They did spend more time with the monsters. But the more I thought about it and I rewatched it, and God, it's just so bad. Because once again, they populate the world with such annoying people. It is so overly self-serious. And our main heroines' heel face turns make no fucking sense. Ignoring the fact that, the obvious thing of, oh, she's hurting over the death of her son, but she's not worried about murdering millions of other people's children. The whole, oh, you said we were going to release the monsters one at a time and not all at once, is what inspires her face turn. What the fuck difference does that make? Yes, we're going to kill millions of people, but it's important we do it one monster at a time instead of all at once. That makes our plan better. What I continue to have a hard time with is that this is the same studio that did the King Kong film, Kong Skull Island. They're now going to do a crossover between the two. And how did Kong get it so right, and these Godzilla films still get it so wrong? Number 9, Missing Link. This one hurts. This one really hurts. I love Linka Studios. I've said that multiple times on this program, how much I love Linka Studios. It's my Pixar. Everybody else can have their CGI. I love Linka Studios stuff, but this one is just such a disappointment. The animation is beautiful as ever, but the characters are flat and dull. The storyline doesn't make any sense. The interplay between Hugh Jackman and Zach Galifianakis just doesn't work, and there's a shit-eating joke in this. Call me whatever you want, call me a prude or whatever, but a shit-eating joke? Linka Studios, you're supposed to be better than that. Don't sink down to everyone else's level. Raise us up to yours. Number 8, Midway. I don't know what to say about this one. This movie is just bad from start to finish. Fuck it. I seriously, I am straining for what do you talk about there. There's not a single good performance. There's not a single good shot. There's not a single good anything. This was a waste of time, money, and energy. Next, number 7, Joker. So I go from having next to nothing to say to having way too much to say. You know, there is nothing worse than a high schooler writing a one-act play and thinking they are so deep, and there is nothing worse than a movie that has nothing to say and yet convinced it has everything to say, or more to the point, that has everyone else telling it had so much to say. The Joker film is not this landmark, important social doctrine that it has been piped up to be. It is not about how a guy is turned because of his treatment by society. And what it is it is a justification for every misanthropic loner who thinks that it's everyone else's fault that my life sucks, instead of looking at what you have done to make your life this way. It is also a horrifyingly misrepresented film dealing with mental illness. And the fact that it has garnered so much praise, the fact that it is now nominated for an Oscar for Best Picture, is just, it's one of the many reasons I no longer believe in any award shows. Number 6, Dumbo. Oh, the very worst of the Disney remakes. This film has nothing to say. This film has no point to its existence. You hand it over to a director who used to be a visionary but has since fallen into the mundane swamp and hasn't done anything interesting in decades. You give it a nonsensical plot, then you try to shoehorn in a meaning at the end, something about not using animals for entertainment, like that was the purpose the whole time. And I always hate to come down hard on child actors. I think that's too many people, come down hard on them. Poor Jake Lloyd, went to rehab because of it. But I gotta say, that young girl in it and her Vulcan, dead-eyed, dead-faced expressions. This movie was too busy trying to be woke that it forgot to be about anything. However, I do have to say, it is responsible for my favorite line of dialogue from the year, and I will repeat it from my review. Why are we calling him Dumbo? Well, because calling him by his real name will make him miss his mother and make him sad. So calling him Dumbo is better. Hey friend, I know you miss your mother, but I'm not going to call you by the name she gave you. I'm going to call you Dumbfuck from now on. Don't you feel better now? Number 5. Where'd You Go Bernadette? This, we're starting now as we hit number 5, we're starting to hit the ones that really pissed me off. The other ones were just kind of bad, but some of the ones from here on up are the ones that really just boiled me. So, Where'd You Go Bernadette? And I admit I'm the wrong audience for it. So, I take my opinion with a grain of salt with this one. But what makes me mad is, once again, a disturbing trend with these movies, this one and Joker, of showing a severe lack of understanding of the implications of mental illness on people. And I'm sorry, I just had such a hard time with the vilification of her husband, who was doing his best to live with a person who was unstable, whose emotions were all over the place, and wouldn't accept help. And yet he is painted as the antagonist. He's painted as the bad guy. It's kind of like that musical Next to Normal that everybody loves so much, where the husband is again painted as the monster because he signs her up for electroshock therapy because he doesn't know what else to do. Because she's hallucinating. You know, I get what they were going for, but they missed the landing and fell on their face hard. Where'd you go, Bernadette? I don't give a shit, but you can stay on. Number 4, Gloria Bell. So I don't feel bad for putting either one of these films on the list, but I do admit I feel kind of weird about having Bernadette as number 5 and Gloria Bell as number 4, because it makes me feel like a misogynist tonight. I'm really not, I swear. But I'm sorry, both of these are terrible movies, and Gloria Bell especially is just awful. It's edited like it was edited by someone with attention deficit disorder. Scenes jump around from left to right and right to left, and you have no idea how much time has passed in between things. And what gets me is that I don't get what the point of this movie was. The advertising frames it as a Gloria gets her groove back kind of thing, but her groove was never gone. We never see that, you know, that her going out dancing and picking up guys doesn't seem to be a random thing that she did just this once. Seems like it's kind of been her thing. So what groove is she getting back? Forgetting then the fact that the guy she picks up becomes so cartoonishly evil that it's laughable. So yeah, and there are people mad that this wasn't nominated for an Oscar. Number 3. After. Okay, I'm actually looking forward to this one, because for this entry in our worst list, I'm introducing a new segment to Drive Home Reviews, and it is called It Might Be a Red Flag If. Okay, you ready to play? Here we go. If you come into your dorm room after taking a shower and find a man that you don't know and didn't invite in your dorm room, who then refuses to leave because he doesn't believe in personal space, it might be a red flag. If said person is mad because you bring your legitimate boyfriend to a party, so mad that he gets drunk and violent and smashes things, it might be a red flag. If after you've had sex with this nut job, and let's also be clear, you've had sex with him after he got drunk and violent and smashed things, therefore not just having sex with a violent person, but also cheating on the boyfriend that you had, you then go to break up with your boyfriend, but instead of giving you the distance to do so, Creeper Boy follows you to the breakup and stands there glaring at legitimate boyfriend and making him put the pieces together, it might be a red flag. And finally, pardon me, if it turns out that Stalker Boy was doing this whole thing in a she's all that-esque bet with his other jerk-ass friends to see how long it would take him to bed you, it might be a fucking red flag. Folks, this shit is not romantic. These are the hallmarks of a future wife beater. Number 2. Hellboy. Alright, I said it in my review, a lot of people have said it in their review, so I want to make sure that we're clear about this. This movie is not bad because it was not the continuation of the original Hellboy series. It is not bad because Guillermo del Toro didn't direct it. It is not bad because Ron Perlman is not playing Hellboy, okay? But none of that helps. This movie is bad because it's flat, it's ugly, it has no spirit, no heart, and you really have no fucking idea why it was made, okay? And having the Guillermo del Toro films to compare it to doesn't help its case. Those films are visually beautiful and interesting and have fun with the concept. This looks like they filmed it in someone's basement. Ron Perlman's Hellboy is likable for his faults. Stranger Things guy's Hellboy, everyone's, I don't know. I'm looking forward to Black Widow, but everyone says this guy from Stranger Things is now the greatest actor ever because he was in Stranger Things. I don't see it. And his Hellboy was an ass and not likable in the least. The makeup was good, but other than that, there's just nothing enjoyable, fun, lighthearted, visually interesting. The story is the exact same motherfucking story from The Kid Who Would Be King. That's the plot. So, again, just because it's not the Ron Perlman doesn't make it bad, but it doesn't fucking help. And the number one worst movie of 2019 is Yesterday. I wasn't even going to put this on the list. Matter of fact, from the moment I saw it and the moment I reviewed it, I kind of made a promise to myself, said, I'm not going to put this on a list because it doesn't deserve it. I don't want to acknowledge it. I don't want to give it any more of my time or energy than it's already taken. So I'm not even going to put it on the list. But here's the problem. As I'm compiling these lists and I'm looking at my choices for some of this, and I'm trying to decide what is going to be my number one worst movie of the year, and nothing else sparked my hatred. Nothing else enraged me. Nothing else left such a bad, foul taste in my mouth as this movie. I knew what I had to do. Okay? Let's ignore the fact. Let's not ignore the fact. First of all, you spend all this money to shell out for Beatles songs, which are not cheap. You spend all this money, and the best story you can come up with for what if the Beatles never existed is the same guy who gets famous learns the true meaning of life and learns that happiness is what he left behind, and he was happier when he was back home making simple music. So in other words, the plot of every fucking movie about the music business ever fucking made. Okay? So that's bad enough. And then you have the balls to throw in that line. And anybody who saw my review of this knows the line I'm talking about. That line that is a kick, a steel-toed boot kick to the balls of not only every teacher in the country, but every art teacher in the country. How dare you waste your time teaching kids? You're too good for that. Fuck you. So yes, I'm giving this one the power. I'm bringing it back because I had to give this movie one more look in the eye and say, movie, Yesterday, fuck you back to yesterday. What world can we exist in where this movie is erased from memory? So yes, Yesterday, congratulations. You are the worst movie of 2019. So say I. Okay, that's cathartic, but let's move away from the negative. Let's start moving up the ladder. So when next we meet, we're going to be taking a look at those films that maybe weren't the strongest, but weren't necessarily the worst either. So join me next time for the top 10 films of 2019. Until then, drive safe, and I'll see you at the movies.